Alright guys, so today I'm going to be doing CHING number 122. So the first thing that I have is a Bratz doll. This actually came from a yard sale and I'd say I paid about $2 for it, and it sold for $29.99. Next item I have is a West Virginia glass vase. Again, this also came from a yard sale. I'd say I paid about $5 for it, and that sold for $49.99. Next item was a mini Boyd's bear. This one was like a breast cancer awareness bear. I feel like this may have come from a flea market. I remember picking one up at the flea market for like $1, and I feel like it was this one. And she sold for $19.99. Next item I do have down here a name John, so I'm not sure if that is a subscriber or just a repeat buyer. I do have a lot of repeat buyers, but not all of my repeat buyers, are subscribers. But they purchased a Hall Atomic Starburst teapot for $79.99. This actually came from a yard sale as well, and I'd say I paid like less than $10 for it. I think I paid like $8 for it, so that was an awesome find. I also sold a vintage Beetlejuice figure for $10.99, and that probably came from a yard sale. I also sold a Hallmark Nutcracker for $44.99. This one came from an auction, I do believe, and I'd say Eric probably paid less than $10 for that. I want to say around maybe $8. This next item also, I believe, came from a yard sale. This was a ceramic Santa, and then his little toy sack, I believe, was a planter. He was definitely a ceramic planter. That sold for $25.99, and he was probably $1 to $2. Next item was a Betty Boop ornament. I think I had one of these in my last Cha-Ching video, and Eric actually had purchased a couple of these at a yard sale. They were $1 a piece, and this one also sold for $10.99. Let's see, this next item also came from a yard sale. I had sold quite a few of these. Eric had found them at a yard sale. They were called the Grocery Gang, and they were like a blind box type of toy. So like, it showed a couple of the figures that you would get in the box, but then the rest was like a surprise. And I'm pretty sure he paid $3 or $4 a piece for these at the yard sale, and we bought all of them and they all sold, and this one sold for $69.99. We sold a Super RC Game Boy game for $6.99. I feel like this came from an auction where we had won just a couple of different random video games. I also sold a blown art glass Christmas tree. I think this came from an auction. I really want to say it came from an auction. That sold for $139.99, and man, I want to say we paid maybe $20 or less for it. It's kind of crazy. We also sold a Griswold number 10 cast iron skillet for $225. I sold a vintage from 1983 Poochie board game for $21.99. This actually belonged to my aunt. We also have, this was made out of Pennsylvania coal. This figure was of a mountain lion that sold for $39.99. Eric and I have won kind of a few figures that were made out of coal at an auction. It was a whole tray of them. I'd say we paid maybe $20 for the tray, but we already sold quite a few of them. I'm not sure which ones we have left. We sold some Mr. Christmas music box ornaments for $49.99. These came from an auction, and I'd say we paid $10 to $12 for those. This next item came from a yard sale. This was for a vintage Christmas tree ornament. These are called spinners. These can sell really, really well. Obviously, the more you have, the more money you can make out of them. Like, having lots of them, but even just individual ones, there was only one that I found at the yard sale. I paid 25 cents for it, and it sold for $32.99. Next item I have was a Bucilla Christmas tree ornament kit that sold for $12.99, probably from a yard sale, $1 or less. Next was a Boyd's Bear Moose trinket box that sold for $16.99. I'd say yard sale for $1. Next was a set of vintage Federal glass. They called these roly-poly tumblers. These were actually still in the original box. Just a really nice set. Those sold for $49.99 and they came from an auction. And I'd say I paid maybe $12 for those. Next item was an Old Spice aftershave, but it was in this like flask looking decanter. I picked this up at a yard sale for $1 and it sold for $25.99. Next item did go to a subscriber named Sandra. She purchased some Homeco Christmas teddy bears for $17.99. I'm pretty sure we picked those up at a yard sale. Next was a Waterford Crystal Butterfly. This came from Facebook Marketplace. Eric had purchased a bunch of Waterford Crystal pieces. This one sold for $45. I also sold a Monster High doll of Rochelle Goyle for $49.99, and she came from a tub of Monster High dolls that I had purchased at a yard sale. Next was a Mexican beaded snake. We had won this at one of the, I feel like it was the first folklore auction that we had gone to. That sold for $69.99, and I know we had won that with another one because we had two. Next we have, this one was an interesting one. This was for a Bath and Body Works pair of Lambie slippers. These came out like a while back, but these were brand new still, and I paid I think 25 cents or 50 cents for them at a yard sale, and they sold for $89.99. I also sold a Smith & Wesson Bowie knife. Eric had won this, I believe, at an auction, and that sold for $99.99. Next was for a set of plastic vintage Easter. These were like cake toppers. Those sold for $12.99, and I feel like those came from a yard sale, so quarter 50 cents. Let's see, we sold an ES skateboarding hoodie for $39.99. I picked this up at a yard sale, and I'd say I paid about $2 for it. I also sold a lot of 2 Angry Birds plushies for $19.99. They both probably came from a yard sale, so quarter piece, 50 cents altogether. Next was a Philosophy Hope in a Jar that sold for $29.99. That came from an auction. I had won a bunch of Philosophy Hope in a Jars. It was like a whole tray of them. Someone had quite a QVC, I believe, addiction. It was a lot of beauty stuff that day, and I had so many bottles of Hope in a Jar, and I'm pretty sure I sold every single one. Next we have a Santa ornament. This was by Van Craig. That sold for $22.99, and I paid $1 for that at a yard sale. I sold a My Little Pony Pillow Talk pony. This was a vintage like G1 pony. That sold for $29.99 and probably came from a yard sale, and I'd say I paid $1 for it. Next was a Torrid Velvet Tank Top that sold for $22.99. Again, a yard sale, probably $1. Next was a Yankee candle. This was in the scent Beat Around the Bushel. I believe it was like apple scented. That sold for $25.99. I think that actually came from an auction. I'm not sure if we won it with something else or not, but I'd say I paid $1 to $2 for that. Again, this is another Philosophy item. I think I sold one of these in my last CHING video. This was the Supernatural makeup. That sold for $39.99. Again, that same auction where I was weighing a bunch of the Philosophy stuff. Continuing on with the next thing, also another one of the Philosophy Hope in a Jar moisturizers. That's over $29.99. Again, another philosophy item. This was for a strawberry milkshake scented 3-in-1. That one sold for $39.99, and I think I paid about maybe $5 for that. I sold an IT Cosmetics. This was for 3 IT Cosmetics. They purchased 3 of them. Vitality lip flushes. So grand total $59.97, and again, those came from one of the beauty trays that I had won at that auction. Also sold a Monet Nutcracker trinket box for $29.99, and that came from an auction of one of the auctions that Eric had purchased a bunch of those Monet trinket boxes. Next item also came from an auction. This one was a really good one. This one was for a vintage Nintendo game. It was Micro Machines, and this was still sealed. So finding sealed video games, like vintage sealed video games, is like, one, it's like super hard to find, but 2, when you find them, they're worth decent money, because some people do get them graded and stuff like that. I don't bother with that. We just sold it as is. I feel like we paid like less than $20 for it. I feel like people didn't really notice it on the table, which was just kind of insane. I was expecting to pay way more for it. And we sold it for $188.50. Next item was a Victoria's Secret perfume in the scent Rapture. That sold for $39.99. Probably came from a yard sale, so I'd say $1 to $2 at most. Next item came from it's like a thrift shop slash antique shop. This was an Anthropologie ornament of these felt mice in a bathtub. It was so stinking cute. Those sold for $19.99, and I think I paid $2 for that. We sold a Corningware electric skillet for $53.99. This I got at a yard sale. I'd say I paid like $5 for it. It did take a long time to sell though. Next 2 items again were Monet trinket boxes. The first one was of a scarecrow that sold for $29.99, and the other one was another nutcracker that sold for $29.99 as well. Also sold a Precious Moments mermaid figure. This here we got at a yard sale. I'd say we paid $4 or $5 for it, and that sold for $49.99. Here's another philosophy item. This was for a 3-in-1 in the scent Banana Nut Bread. That one sold for $39.99, again from the same auction where I was purchasing a bunch of philosophy stuff. And again, I'd say $5 for that. And the last thing, I think this is the last thing that I had for this cha-ching, was a Department 56 Mickey's Merry Village piece that sold for $89.99. That came from an auction, and I'd say we paid maybe $20 for it. But that is everything for this cha-ching. As a reminder, I'm still trying to get caught up on cha-ching, so these ones aren't, you know, stuff that just sold, say, last week or anything like that. At the end of my videos, I've been kind of talking a little bit about, like on my front page screen, when you're looking at your eBay, and the last 31 days, there will be like a little percentage of like if you're up or down in sales and what have you. So I've been trying to like tell you guys what those percentages are for the last 31 days. And upon recording this video, my sales for the last 31 days are down 20.1%. So I kind of figured that they would be, just because I feel like I haven't been having like, you know, a ton of sales. Obviously the weather is getting to be so incredibly nice, so most people, you know, are out enjoying the weather and not really shopping so much online, but rather, you know, actually like going out to shop and that type of thing. It happens like every summer. Sales tend to slow down in the summer, and that's everywhere. Even the people that we talk to, or that Eric talks to when he's at the auction, who have like antique booths and stuff like that, like they even say that sales tend to be a little bit slower in the summertime. So I feel like that just encompasses like any kind of like resale type of thing where it's just a little slower in the summer. But it's great because, well, it's not great, but you know what I mean? Like, as far as you have summertime to go to yard sales and things like that. So you're able to like beef up your inventory and your stock of stuff. So when sales do pick up, you know, once the weather starts getting cooler and things like that, then, you know, you have a lot of new exciting inventory to add to your store. So it happens. And like I said, I've been selling since 2001 is when I first started selling on eBay. So like I understand these things. I've been through it, but I will say since I've been doing this full time, I'm obviously selling more than I ever have since I was a reseller, because my just volume of sales just continues to grow because of the more things that I'm listing, because I have time to list more things. So, you know, every year I just, you know, want to keep building and building and building and building and building, you know. So, you know, I have big dreams, big plans. So, you know, sometimes I just need to like find more of that motivation, because that is one of the hardest things, especially days like today when it's so nice outside and, you know, it's like I want to just enjoy the day and that type of thing. I don't want to work. I don't want to list, but that's only harming me. So finding the motivation, I think, is one of the hardest, especially if you do it full time and you're working for yourself. I feel like it's even harder because you kind of have to be your own motivator as far as that type of thing, because you don't have a time clock to punch in and punch out, and you know, you don't have this like set schedule because you can make your own schedule. So if you don't feel good one day, it's okay, like, you know, I don't feel good today, so I'm not listing today type of thing. So yeah, finding motivation is like one of the hardest, which I think a lot of people can agree on, because obviously sourcing is the funnest part, like absolutely the funnest part. So one thing that I did want to kind of talk about, because I just heard about this like yesterday, I believe it was, Eric had told me he had seen it on one of the like eBay Facebook groups. So I had to update my eBay app, and I'm gonna show it to you right now just in case anyone else hasn't seen this yet or isn't sure how it works. I'm gonna show you how it works. So I'm just gonna click on one of my listings so I can show it to you. But there is a new feature under your item description down here. This little icon right here. Basically that's like, I think they're calling it an AI description or something like that, where it's just pulling all of the information from, I think, your title, and then, you know, when you go in and put in your item specifics, like it's pulling your information from there, and it just automatically is generating an entire description for you. So for instance, I'm gonna like tell you what I have currently written down for this description on this particular listing, and then I'll do the AI version and we'll just see. Because I only checked this on like one thing so far, and I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, so let's just see. So this item is for a 3-wheel studio pottery platter. So my description says 3-wheel, this is what I wrote, 3-wheel studio art pottery, birds and berries, oval, 15.75 inch platter in excellent condition, no chips, cracks, or scratches, was used for decor only, signed DWC on the back. It is 3-wheel studios, birds and berries lime, measures about 15.75 inches across and 10.75 inches wide, and the side comes up about 2 inches, thick and heavy. So I am just going to click on the little AI the little AI generator, and it will pop up with its own description. So this is what the AI generated description says. This 3-wheel studio art pottery platter features a charming birds and berries pattern on an oval 15.75 inch tray. Made of high quality stoneware, this original piece showcases the production style and techniques of art pottery. The platter is perfect for serving and displaying food, and its multicolored design with bird theme adds a touch of whimsy to any table. The 3-wheel studio brand is known for their unique and beautiful pottery creations, and this piece is a fine example of their craftsmanship. Add it to your collection today. Wow. Okay, I'm a little blown away by that. Like, that sounds so good. So the other one that I did it to, like, I feel like obviously if you do use this new feature, just double check it, make sure that it is an accurate description. For the most part, I feel like they are, but I think like the only other thing I had tried it on was for a set of miniature, it was like a miniature tea set. And I don't know why it used the term dollhouse, but they would have been too big to use as like dollhouse pieces. So I would have had to like edit that part out. But for just like that sounds so good, right? So I feel like this might be kind of a...
Nah, nobody reads descriptions anyway.
Eric scared me. You just pop it in. Eric says nobody reads the description anyway. I guess some people don't, Eric. But I think it's kind of a game changer as far as listing maybe quicker and that type of thing. And especially maybe for anyone who struggles in like what to write in their descriptions and that type of thing. But like that sounded really good. You know, it sounded, I think, like my description, but a little more in-depth type of thing. So I don't know. I think that's a kind of cool feature. I wish eBay would fix some other things though, but I mean, we'll take what we can get, right? Because my cha-ching noise still isn't working properly. So there's that. And the only other thing I feel like I really wanted to make mention was I got a return request just, I guess this was last night while I was sleeping. It was for a Barbie doll that I had sold like a month ago. And it was literally like the reasoning was they changed their mind, and then in the comments they said that their cousin didn't want to play with it anymore. So pretty much they played with it for like a month and now they want to send it back, which it's whatever. It wasn't like in a box or anything. So, I mean, as long as it's in the condition that I sold it in, it is what it is. Like, obviously I have to accept the return, but it was kind of like mind blowing a little bit. So, you know, returns do happen, and that's just, you know, the name of the eBay game. But I just thought that one was kind of funny. That was the first thing I saw this morning, and I was just like, really? Really? This is how we're gonna start the day? Okay. But that's pretty much everything for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know how things are going for you, how your sales are going, and how your sales typically go through the summer. As well as if you have tried the new like AI description feature. Let me know what you think about it. Or I could have sworn, Eric says he thinks it's only on Android, but I could have sworn when I looked on that eBay Facebook group that iPhone users were also able to use it. So yeah, so definitely just let me know if you used it and how you feel about it, or if like you haven't even heard about it, because I just heard about it literally yesterday, so I had to update the app. So if you don't see it, check to see if there's an update on the eBay app, and then it should show up. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time.